Some people think certain stories only exist because someone exaggerated, had too much to drink, or saw something that wasn't really there. I used to be one of those people, a skeptic to the bone. Everything had a logical explanation. It was all just angles, shadows, sleep deprivation, mass hysteria. Until the night I heard something I wasn't supposed to. Until the night something followed me into the forest. And it wasn't an animal. It was a thing. And when it got close, the air felt like it changed. Like the whole world was holding its breath not to make a sound. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what happened on that camping trip. But before I start, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like something was watching you, even when you were completely alone in the woods? Have you ever felt the ground vibrate slightly, like something massive had just passed by and you somehow missed it? If you've ever experienced anything like that, or worse, send us your story. Here, every strange story is welcome. And while you're at it, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. It was supposed to be a simple trip, just a weekend camping with 3 friends in the woods. Nothing too remote, but far enough that we couldn't hear cars or get any cell signal. I've always been a city person. Pavement, streetlights, people everywhere. That was my world. But that summer, I agreed to go camping with some friends in a forest reserve up in northern Oregon. One of those protected areas that, according to locals, had once been cursed by silence, as they say. I laughed when I heard that. I should have paid more attention. We got there late Friday afternoon, parked the car at a spot marked on a map we downloaded, and hiked the trail with our backpacks. Everything felt normal. The weather was cool, the sky was clear. That kind of peacefulness that almost feels fake. The forest was dense, but beautiful. The trees looked ancient, with twisted branches and bark so dark it looked like it burned where the sunlight touched it. The air smelled thick of wet earth and old wood, like a kind of dampness that never really dries. After about 40 minutes of hiking, we reached a decent clearing with space for 2 tents. We could hear a stream in the distance, and the silence there had a sound of its own, almost like a constant low hum. We set up camp, built a fire, roasted some marshmallows, total camping cliché. We laughed, teased each other, had a few beers, nothing out of the ordinary. But when night truly fell, the place felt even more isolated. The fire cast long shadows on the trees that looked like they moved with the wind. But come to think of it, the wind had stopped. The first weird thing happened around 2 a.m. I never sleep well outdoors, so I was just lying there listening to the forest sounds. Only, there weren't any. None. No crickets, no owls, no rustling leaves. Like someone had smothered the whole forest under a heavy blanket. And then I heard a knock. Subtle. 3 sharp knocks, like wood hitting wood. I froze, holding my breath. The knocks came again, a little closer this time. Then again, 3 knocks. I wanted to believe it was just an animal, some creature tapping on a log or something, but it felt too rhythmic, too deliberate. I sat up just enough to glance at the other tent, where 2 of my friends were sleeping. Everything looked normal. No flashlights, no movement. I waited a while, until the sound stopped. When I woke up the next morning, I thought maybe I had dreamed it. Maybe I did. But that was only the first night. The second one, that's when things started spiraling. The next morning, no one mentioned anything strange. They were laughing, making coffee in metal mugs, joking around. I almost brought up the sounds I'd heard, but decided against it. Thought maybe it was just my imagination. Honestly, I wanted to believe that. After breakfast, we went exploring a bit deeper into the forest, followed the trail along the stream. The day felt normal, almost too calm. But even in that forced normalcy, something felt off. The trees looked closer together than the day before, like they'd leaned in overnight. And in a few places along the trail, we noticed strange marks in the ground. Deep scratches in straight lines, like something with claws or sharp tools had been dragged. But nobody said a word. We got back to camp in the late afternoon, tired and sweaty. Lit the fire. Again, and night fell suddenly, like a heavy curtain. The sky, which had been clear all day, now looked cloudy. The stars disappeared one by one, like they were being covered by something dark. And then came the noise. It wasn't subtle like the night before. These weren't knocks. It was a sound. Wet. A dragging noise, like heavy flesh being pulled across the ground. Slow. Irregular. And it came from inside the forest, to the right of our clearing. I was holding a beer can when I heard it. Looked. Around, but no one seemed to notice. Or maybe they were ignoring it, or pretending. You know that kind of silence that's not quite fear, but almost? Like everyone had silently agreed it was better not to say anything? After a while, the sound stopped. Just like that. We went to bed early, but no one really slept. Inside the tent, lying down, all I could hear was my own breathing. Until I heard another one. It wasn't mine. Wasn't any of my friends. It was labored. Uneven. As if someone was standing right outside the tent, breathing close to the fabric. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Just listened. And then, suddenly, the sound vanished. But not the silence. Because the silence was broken by the sound of branches snapping. Slow footsteps. Circling the campsite. It was like something was walking in circles around us. Not an animal, not a person, something else. There was a pattern to how it moved. 3 steps, pause, 3 steps, pause. The next morning, one of my friends seemed different, quieter. When I looked closely, he looked drained, like he hadn't slept at all. But he denied it, said he was just hungover. But I knew that wasn't it. I saw it in his eyes. He had heard it too. After breakfast, he wandered off. Went walking alone in the woods, something he never did. We always hiked together. But this time, he left without a word and stayed gone for hours. When he came back, he was dirty, mud on his arms and legs, and his eyes, they were off. Like he wasn't completely there. He said he got lost, but the trail GPS didn't show any deviation. That's when we decided we'd head back to the city the next day. The group's energy had shifted. Something was wrong with the place, with him, with everything. But night hadn't fallen yet, and that last night was the worst. That's when the creature appeared. The third night began with silence. Not the usual forest silence, a different kind. A silence that seemed to pull the sounds inward, muffling even our own. Voices. No one laughed. No one joked. Even the fire crackled lower, like it was scared too. I was fiddling with my canteen when I heard the first crack. At first, I thought it was just another branch falling. But then came more. A sequence of 3. Quick, rhythmic, and not far away. They came from inside the clearing. I slowly lifted my eyes, pretending everything was normal. But my skin was already crawling. That's when I noticed. There was something standing next to the tent. Something big. Dark. Blending into the shadows. It wasn't moving. Just there. Still. Watching. I thought I was imagining things. I blinked. Blinked again. When I opened my eyes, it was gone. My friends didn't seem to notice. Or once again, they were pretending they didn't. That night, we didn't even try sleeping in the tents. We stayed close to the fire. Instinctively. Out of fear. Felt safer that way. But it didn't stop her from coming. I felt it first. Like pressure in the air. The temperature dropped. Instantly. My teeth started chattering, and the fire no longer warmed us. I looked around and saw my friend, the same one who'd wandered off earlier, staring into the darkness, his eyes wide open, unblinking, like he was seeing something the rest of us couldn't. And then he whispered, "She's here." His voice was different, rougher, deeper. I wanted to ask what he meant, but I couldn't speak. That's when I saw her, For real. A figure, not human, but not entirely monstrous either. Tall, thin, arms too long, ending in hands that looked like twisted claws. Her skin was dark, uneven, like it had been shaped from mud. Eyes? She had none. Just two deep, empty holes that swallowed light. She stood at the edge of the clearing, half crouched, as if deciding whether to come closer. No one moved, no one spoke. Time seemed frozen. And then, she took a step. My body screamed inside, but didn't move. I felt my bladder almost give out. Not from shame, from sheer terror. That thing didn't make a sound. Its feet didn't even seem to touch the ground. She glided, bent in the wrong ways, like her body didn't follow normal rules. She passed through us like a liquid shadow and went straight to my friend, the one who had whispered, and stopped in front of him. They stood there, face to face, for seconds that felt like hours. And then, she placed a hand on his chest, slowly, like she recognized something there, like she'd left a piece of herself inside him before. When the creature pulled away, he collapsed, and she vanished. Vanished like she'd never been there, like something had pulled her back into the forest with invisible threads. We spent the rest of the night in silence. No sleep, no movement, just waiting for daylight to come. When the sun finally came out, our friend woke up. But he wasn't himself anymore. He had the same face, the same voice, but his eyes were empty, dead. Like something had been ripped out of him. Or maybe something had been put in. We decided to leave immediately. But of course, it wasn't that simple. On the way back, we realized we were going in circles. The GPS wouldn't update. The sun shifted positions strangely fast. The same trees showed up over and over again. Until finally, close to noon, we heard the sound of a car on the nearby road. We ran, literally ran. And when we stepped onto the asphalt, it felt like waking up from a bad dream, but nobody said a word. We got into the truck, drove to the nearest town, looked at each other, and pretended nothing happened. Until today. We spent months without saying a thing about it. Each of us went back to our routine, pretending what we experienced was just a shared psychotic episode, some group hysteria brought on by isolation, stress, or maybe even a hallucinogenic plant we unknowingly inhaled. We came up with explanations. We needed them. Anything was better than admitting that something real had happened in that forest. But silence didn't erase what we saw, or what we felt. I tried to sleep at night, but the sound of the creature and that nothing kept circling my ears, the kind of silence that screams. And when I finally managed to drift off, I'd dream of it. Always still, always watching, but closer every time. I started noticing strange things too. Blackouts. Moments where I'd find myself somewhere without knowing how I got there. One time I woke up in my car, engine running, on the shoulder of a highway I didn't even know existed. The clock said 3:03. 3 hours and 3 minutes. Always that number. I talked to one of my friends, the most rational one. He listened carefully, and in the end, he just said, "You too?" Turns out we were all broken, in different ways. But all of us, except one. The one who passed out. The one she touched. He was fine. Too fine. Way too calm. Like none of it had ever happened. Like he had made peace with something we couldn't even begin to understand. But he wasn't the same person. I don't know how to explain. It was like something was in him, like every word, every laugh, every silence was just a copy of who he used to be. The shell was the same. But inside, it wasn't him anymore. Then one day, he vanished. Literally. No one heard from him again. Not at work. Not even his family. The last time anyone saw him, he was walking barefoot into the woods in the middle of the night. That's what they said. That he was pulled back. That news hit us hard. Those of us who survived. And that's when I decided to go back to the forest. I needed to understand. It wasn't curiosity, it was necessity. This wasn't over. The feeling of being watched never left. I had to see it again, to find out if it was real or just a poorly healed psychic scar. I prepared everything carefully, but this time I went alone. No one wanted to come with me, and honestly, I preferred it that way. I returned to the same dirt road, the same entry point, but now everything seemed smaller. I don't know if it was time or if my memory had inflated things, but it all felt less threatening. For about 3 hours, everything seemed normal. Regular trails, bird sounds, some deer in the distance. Then I reached the clearing. It was still there, exactly the same. The trampled grass, the fire pit we left behind. Even the marks from where our tents had been. Nothing had changed. And that's when I understood. The forest isn't just a place, it's a presence, an organism, something that watches you. It's not where the creature lives. It is the creature. It was like it recognized me, and I recognized it too. The daylight turned gray in an instant. The air froze. No sound, no birds, just me and that impossible silence. My heart started beating out of rhythm. My skin felt like it wanted to peel off, and then I heard it. Not a normal sound, a snap inside the mind, a kind of whisper that said, "You came back." I dropped to my knees, not out of choice. My body just gave in. My hands trembled. My head throbbed. And there, at the edge of my vision, I saw her, again. But different this time. Closer, clearer, less shadow, more form. And this time she spoke, not with a voice, but with memory. An invasion of memories that weren't mine. Sensations from other bodies, other times. People who had been here before. People who never left. And I understood. She doesn't hunt us. She welcomes us. It absorbs us, merges us with itself. The forest is made of people who never came back. And maybe it was my moment to stay. But then I heard a sound, the only human sound in that forest. My name. Someone calling me. From far away, a familiar voice. One of my friends? It was impossible, but it pulled me back. On impulse, I ran. I ran without looking back. I ran without knowing the path, as if the ground itself was guiding me. And when I looked around, I was back on the dirt road, breathing like I'd just been reborn. The forest stayed behind, but it never left me. After that second visit, I was never the same. And I don't mean that in a casual way, like someone coming back from a trip with a new haircut thinking they've changed. I'm talking about something deep, almost invisible. An internal crack no one else can see, but that you feel every time you close your eyes. The forest stayed behind, but the feeling that it breathes inside me, that never went away, I can't explain it properly. Sometimes it's like something inside me is waiting, watching, and it's not me. Not completely. I have lapses. Moments when I wake up in the middle of the night, standing, staring at the front door, with no idea how I got there. Other times I feel like I'm dreaming while awake, staring at the trees along the roadside, imagining that one of them is going to move. Blink, call my name. And you know what's worse? I'm not even sure I want to resist anymore. Since that night, my life's been a series of days on autopilot. People around me talk, laugh, live. But me, I just watch. Like I've forgotten how to be part of it all. I've thought about telling someone, a therapist, a support group, anything. But how do you explain that you saw something that shouldn't exist? That it saw you back, and now you share the same body? Who would believe it? And there's more. Sometimes I hear that sound again. Not with my ears, with my soul. The sound of nothing. The absolute absence of everything. It's funny how fear changes you. Back at the campsite, I swore that if I made it out, alive, I'd never step foot in a forest again, never camp again, never sit in the dark again. And for a while, I kept that promise. But now, I don't know. Some days I wake up with this unexplainable urge to go back, to hear the silence, to meet whatever that thing was again, as if part of me stayed there. And the rest came back incomplete. What if that's it? What if I'll never be whole again? The other night, I was driving late down a road near a forest reserve. And on the side of the road, just standing there, was a man. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I swear on everything, he looked like me. Not similar, not kind of. It was me, or who I used to be before that night. He looked at me, or at least that's what it felt like. And then, he vanished. Just like that, as if he melted into his own shadow. If you're thinking of camping somewhere where the silence is too deep, think again. Because there are places that don't want you to leave. And when you do manage to get out, maybe you're not the same person who went in. Maybe the forest has its own kind of memory. Maybe it still remembers us. Maybe it's waiting for someone to return. Ever since then, I'm afraid to sleep. Afraid that, the next time I close my eyes, it will be the one who wakes up in my place. Maybe we just panicked that night. Maybe it was fear that created the creature, not the other way around. But tell me, if it were you, would you be sure? Or would you spend the rest of your life wondering, what if it's real?